Jenna Cammisoli, welcome to Competencies Without a Classroom. I'm super excited to have you here today. And Jenna, we do this with every guest. We start off the conversation the exact same way. We ask the most important question first. It's what our listeners really want the answers to. These are middle and high school students and teachers. These are busy individuals. They don't have time for fluff. So Jenna, when it comes to pineapple on pizza, are you a yes or a no on that one?
I am a hard no. I don't know if that is the wrong answer here, Damon. I don't know where you sit on this very important issue, but I am a hard no. I do not believe fruit belongs on pizza. And don't say that tomato is a fruit and that belongs on pizza. But yeah, I don't know. Something about the sweetness and then it's warmed up. I can't do it.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but yes, that was the wrong answer. Luckily, I asked that at the start of the interview, so you have lots of time to make up some ground. Yeah. On that note, Jenna, why don't you introduce yourself? Who is Jenna Cammisoli and what are you doing for work right now?
Yeah, thank you, Damien. So my name is Jenna Cammisoli, as you mentioned. I am the Canadian Campus Recruitment and Programs Leader at Scotiabank. So basically, I have the best job at the bank. I'm very open in saying that. I handle all campus recruitment as well as program management activities along with my awesome team. So we take care of everything from the attraction and acquisition piece all the way to the development and retention of early talent. So really just a fantastic role. I get to meet thousands and thousands of students every single year and hire some really great ones into the organization. So it's a phenomenal job.
Yeah, no kidding. What's one of your favorite things about getting to work with young people all the time?
Oh man, you know what? I think the way they challenge me to think differently. I feel like they keep me up to date on stuff. I always get the scoop on what happened on Keeping Up with the Kardashians 3 weeks ago, right. So I feel like I keep young and energized. Actually, I think that's another one too. They fill me with energy and they just have such a great attitude and willingness to work hard. It's really inspiring to be around.
Yeah, no kidding. And so Jenna, let's talk about kind of your transition to campus recruitment, because you have had some really interesting experience. We talk a lot on this podcast about don't get beholden to one role or one type of job because you're going to have a lot of flexibility in career, and you've definitely had that. But you're an outlier in the sense where most of the people we've talked to have worked in different roles at different companies. Can you talk a little bit about your journey, maybe post high school and all the different opportunities that you've been introduced to at Scotiabank?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started as a summer intern myself at the bank. And I'm kind of one of those situations where loved it so much, will never leave. If I do, it's going to be kicking and screaming. I just have loved the opportunities that I've had at the bank. So I started as a summer intern, got kept on full time, eventually transitioned into human resources because I always said, I want to be in the people industry. I love helping people. I had passion for young people as well as learning and development. So it was great that I fell into this space, but I transitioned into HR so that I could really practice, building relationships, teaching, development. I kind of have a creative side, or at least I try to build it up. I say I'm not the most creative person ever, but I feel like this job really forces me to think outside the box. So, marketing is brought into the mix. I love selling. I love being in front of people. I love talking. So kind of moving into this direction really helped. And then I kind of picked up different roles along the way to really help me to where I am today, essentially.
Okay. And does Scotiabank encourage that, like the moving around, or is that just Jenna being Jenna and wanting to learn new things? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I think at the end of the day, as an employee, your development, it's on you, right? Like you really drive that. You drive those conversations and you go to your leader and talk to them about that and share your aspirations. But definitely, it was definitely supported. My current manager right now, manager is not the right word, leader, like he just truly is just the most amazing leader in person. Yeah. He actually encouraged me with my last move to go and take a role outside of his team to develop my performance management skills, my insight when it came to COE type of work, to ultimately come back to his team, which I did afterwards, to be able to bring the skills and learnings that I acquired in that role. So it was definitely very much encouraged, and it was just an amazing experience.
That's a true leader. Can you give him a shout out? Because we love to give shout outs to those kind of people.
Yes, Michael Shelson. Absolutely. He's our director and global head for campus recruitment and talent development.
Okay, good on you, Michael. So let's talk a little bit from summer intern to HR. Like, and maybe this is a good opportunity for you to talk about what the summer intern or intern programs in general look like at Scotia today. But if you're a student, like, were you working under the umbrella of HR as an intern, or was it an opportunity for you to try a bunch of different things? Like, what does a summer intern at Scotiabank do?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's definitely evolved. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am because I know I look like I graduated like 3 days ago. But back when I was an intern, it definitely isn't what it looked like now. There weren't as many roles available, and I think because we just hadn't really built out enough of a robust internship and co-op program, right? That's really come over the years.
Right.
So I actually used to work in a mortgage underwriting center out of Hamilton, Ontario. So I did that for every single summer. I was a repeat offender. I just kept coming back, wanting more and more, right? But I felt like with each passing year, my accountability and the work I was doing was kind of growing from there, right? Which made sense. You know, I had another school year under my belt. I started to ingrain myself into the team more, started raising my hand for more projects, meeting new people, got involved in more things. I would say internship roles now are very similar, but there's definitely more departments that are open. You know, I was kind of a lost puppy, I would say, in school, as I think probably most people can relate to. You don't know what you don't know, and you're just so aware of the things that you don't know. So you just want to get out there and try new things. So for me, the first thing that came my way, or someone was like, Jenna, would you want this? I'm like, yes, sign me up. You know, I'll do it. I'll do anything. Right.
Yeah.
But it was a great learning opportunity. And I think right now we just have so many different departments that hire students and really see the value in early talent, and then taking that early talent and actually funneling them into full-time opportunities, right? So it's just so great to see the evolution from when I was a student all the way to now.
And you know what, you touched on it, but I think it's an important thing to come back to, and something we talk about a lot on this podcast is kind of that mindset you had. So sure, maybe you were a lost puppy. We all are at that age, many ages and stages of our life, but it was the mindset of, let's just try this thing. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to learn from that experience. And luckily you found an organization who was willing to develop that talent. You know, it's cliche, but there's that quote where, you know, your first job or jobs early on in your career don't care about the company so much. You care about the leader. You care about the person you're working for and working with, right? Because you want the Michaels of the world who are going to take a chance on you, let you fail, let you learn from that failure, and come back that much stronger. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I think I feel like I got really lucky in a way, and I'm very aware of that. You know, I feel like I fell into a really good situation right out of first year. You know, how many people can say they're that lucky to find such a great organization that were willing to take a chance on them and give them so many opportunities. But I do think, you know, looking back, because I was hired on with a lot of summer students as well, right? I do think looking back, what set me apart and set some of my peers apart too, because I was starting to see, you know, those ones that were coming back every summer and then ended up, you know, getting hired on full time after graduation, were the ones who really put themselves out there. You know, I always say that I have no shame. There's good and bad with that, but I have no shame. You know, I'll literally try anything. I will talk to anybody. You know, I take risks. And I think that was really a big part of me coming back and being thrown into new situations. I always say too, you have to be a good person. You have to be someone that people want to work with, because at the end of the day, you know, we spend a lot of time at work and we want to work with people that, you know, make us feel good, that make us feel energized, that motivate us, you know, and it doesn't matter who you are, what level you are, it really doesn't matter.
No. And you hit the nail on the head there, because I do the same thing myself sometimes when I'm talking about journey. And yeah, there's lucky bounces. There's lucky bounces everywhere, but you acted on the lucky bounce. And that's really what separates some people from the others, right? Is they took the initiative, they did the thing, and it worked out for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Jenna, now we know a bit more about what keeps you busy from 9 to 5, but tell us a bit more about life 5 to 9, right? Let's maybe say pre-COVID, like, what do you like? What do you like to do?
I was going to say, I mean, I think pre-COVID looked very different than how I'm spending my time now. Again, it might be a little bit shameful. I feel like I've just become very, very lazy now, but pre-COVID, huge movie buff. You know, I people always laughed at me and my husband because we were at the movies like every weekend, and it got to a point where sometimes we would re-see the same movie several times while it was in the theater. We just love the whole experience, the popcorn, the smell, the sticky floors, like you just love it all, right?
Yeah.
And just there's something not quite the same about watching movies at home, although we still do it.
Sure.
Post-COVID, I've really gotten into paint by numbers. I don't know if you've ordered one recently where
No.
I can't paint, like I'm not an artist, but you know, I want to create something beautiful. So, you know, it gives you like a little paints and little brushes. So I'm trying to paint a picture. And so far 3 months has got me like this much painted. It's just super tedious, but
What are you
it's
painting?
really relaxing.
Yeah. Is it flower? Is it an animal? Like what is it?
It's a tree with some flowers.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I should pick one of those. My partner, she is a talented painter, so she can paint without the numbers part, but I always feel left out. So maybe I should go paint my numbers.
Yeah. So it's, and it looks super professional. I mean, like sometimes I'm literally sitting there painting with a toothpick, like it's super tedious, but I do it while I watch TV or do something, but it's really enjoyable. It's very therapeutic. It's relaxing.
I believe it. Asking you to pick a favorite movie would probably be too hard for you, but is there a movie that maybe you and your husband have gone back to the most, something you saw multiple times in theaters?
Oh my gosh. You know what? And it's not even him that wanted to see it.
Yeah.
It was me. It was The Greatest Showman.
Okay. That's
I think I
Hugh
saw
Jackman?
it. I think I saw it 4 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was and several times. I went with my mom once, my sister, my husband came twice. I might have gone with my cousin. It might have been 5. Like it was out of control. Like I think people were going to have an intervention for me. It was just too much.
I have to watch it. I have to admit, I have not seen that yet, but that was
it's excellent. Oh, you're going to get obsessed with the soundtrack. Now I listen to the soundtrack because, you know, I just can't get enough.
Cool. So Jenna, on that note, not movies, but let's talk about social media. Are you on Instagram personally?
I am personally. Yeah.
Okay. I love Instagram, but I always talk about, I hate it as well. It's a love-hate relationship. I've personally deleted it from my phone just because I don't want to be scrolling all day and I know my willpower. The biggest issue that I have with Instagram is that it often isn't real, right? It's inauthentic. A lot of people use it, not everybody, but a lot of people use it as kind of their highlight reel to show their best of moments. So I like to use this question as kind of a segue for you to talk about the opposite of that. What's a failure, maybe personally or professionally, something that's happened in the last few years that you can speak to that you think would be important for the young people listening to this to hear about?
That's a great question. I totally agree with Instagram. It just looks like everyone has the best life, you know? For me, and actually the first thing that came to mind was something really recent. I have these coaching sessions every so often with different leaders. And this one was kind of one of those like smack you in the face type of moments, like a real aha, like you have to rethink your life. This one individual said to me, because I was going through my development plan, like, I want to do this, I want to conquer this, I did all this last year. And he just looked at me and he said, Jenna, so what? And I was like, and the premise of it, because he explained it, because at first I was like, I don't know if my feelings should be hurt, right? Like I'm talking about all this stuff, but he was like, you know what? He's like, you have to ask yourself, so what? What are you trying to achieve?
Right.
Who is this going to impact? What is the greater goal? It's like that whole mentality of, seeing the forest from the trees.
Sure.
Sometimes you get so bogged down into your day to day, you want to lift yourself up and just kind of look around you and see, does this make sense? And it forces you to think a little bit more critically. So it wasn't necessarily a failure, in that moment. I thought, everything, my development plan, everything was pristine. And it took my work from like an A+ in my mind to like a D-. So I kind of saw it as like, ooh, this isn't that great. But and I actually have it on a sticky note on my computer. It says, so what? So it makes me think like, whatever I'm doing, what's the purpose? Is this important? What's the impact? Who's it helping?
Yeah.
Is it helping them? Just thinking about things a little more critically.
That's another important person to have in your life. You're surrounded by some good people. I mean, we've talked about that a few times on the podcast as well, trying to dispel this myth of follow your passion, and more people will talk about what's your purpose, right? What's that North Star? Because you could be the busiest person in the world doing all these things, but so what? If they don't align to the thing you care about the most in life or at that moment, then you're just doing things to do things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of filling time. And it's true. And I think also when you start asking those questions, you start to discover what your passions are, because you start gravitating towards those things that you're really excited for, So that was a really big moment. And this literally happened a couple weeks ago. So it blew my mind.
Watch out 2021. Now you got to.
Yeah, honestly.
Actually, on that, did they follow up with, so what, and then give you some tips about how to figure out the what, or what did you do from there?
Yeah, you know what? He didn't. I mean, it was very much a coaching moment. Asked me a lot of, and he's a fantastic coach, asked me a lot of questions that maybe I don't have answers to, but It's things I need to think about. So yeah, just some of those critical questions, like I was saying, like, why is what you're suggesting really important work? Or, why this development goal over this one? Why are you focusing on this? Who's going to benefit most from this piece of work? So, I mean, I didn't have answers to 90% of those questions. I literally looked at him and I was like, you literally just blew my mind. I need to take away this and think about it.
Yep.
But those were some of the questions. He said, I want you to walk away, think about it, and let's regroup and come back to this. So that really helped with the activity for sure.
Yeah, okay. So let's put your HR hat back on for a sec.
Okay.
I want to talk about hiring. One of the questions I love to ask on this podcast, it's a hypothetical where, let's say there's somebody applying for a job at Scotiabank. It's the one position, there's one opening, but you have two resumes and they look almost identical on paper. What have you learned over the years? Like what's that one competency or skill that's going to help separate a successful candidate from the other?
Yeah. So, I mean, lots of competencies. I definitely have my fan faves, but for us, actually, we don't take resumes for students. We actually don't accept resumes at time of application here in Canada for any of our co-op or new grad roles. So it's super cool. We just launched it this year. Our focus is more around building relationships. So we meet tens of thousands of students every single year, whether it's, in-person events, obviously not so much now, but events, initiatives, case competitions, hackathons, coffee chats, just things where we can actually get in front of them. I'm very passionate and vocal around saying that I don't think an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper really tells anyone's story, especially a student.
Yep.
I think, everyone starts off, and I remember this, back in high school, when I was applying for my first part-time job, I'm like, okay, I have to build a resume. So, sometimes on Word, there's a format that you can start with, or sometimes, your best friend just got that job at the mall. Can I borrow your resume and kind of start as a template? Sometimes your school career center helps you build it out as well. And, I just think at the end of the day, you have this over-processed, oversimplified piece of paper that looks the same as everybody else's. It doesn't tell me who you are or what you want to do. So through these events, we meet a lot of really good students. My whole team does. The students are fantastic and we meet so many amazing ones. So for me, when it comes to competencies, I think curiosity is a really big one. Mm-hmm. Are you naturally curious? Do you wonder about things around you? Do you want to make things better? Our problem solving is a really big one. Being competitive. I'm a competitive person, but I like to win as a team. I'm not competing with my own teammates. Winning as a team is really important. And I think self-awareness too, understanding what you're really strong at and understanding also what you're passionate about. Because I think that goes through a lot of reflection and things like that I think all students should go through.
That's a super cool answer. I mean, anyone listening to this podcast who's listened to previous episodes know that I'm not a huge fan of resumes. I think they're a little bit old school for all the reasons you just talked about. What is one piece of paper going to do to show you who I really am?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer and admittedly biased in the power of a digital portfolio to show you what I've done, right?
Yes.
But can we drill down a little bit on kind of the relationship piece? So I'm a student listening to this. What does that actually mean? Does it mean that like I've met a Jenna at an event at some point in my university career? Like, how do you keep track of who you've had these relationships with? You've met 10,000 students, right? So you can't remember them all by name, right?
Well, you'd be surprised, Damien. I mean, we meet so many students from day one, right? But how many students come back out for another event and, in their second year do a case competition with us or reach out to me on LinkedIn to grab a virtual coffee or, we're in the Toronto area. So maybe, they want an office tour. I'll bring them in and we'll do a little bit of an office tour. So it's a two-way relationship. It's not just, me chasing after people. I have students that want to maintain a relationship with me as well. And, I'm not everyone's cup of tea and I don't expect to be, which is why I have such an amazing, awesome, diverse team. And, we all have our strengths when it comes to building relationships. So, if I meet someone and, maybe I'm not someone that they feel like they can connect with, there's someone on my team that they can help with, right? That I can introduce them to, and then they can build a connection from there. So, it's coming back to other events. We always meet our students a handful of times before we ever hire them. We know their story and we know what they're passionate about and what they want to do, which is why I like your idea of the digital portfolio, where you can actually see their work. You can see, and you can see passion. You see passion when it's in front of you, right? Yeah. And you see what they're capable of, right? So yeah, that's a big one. I would say coming back out to things.
I love it. I mean, that's initiative, right? It's one of the things I love to talk
Yeah.
about. It's similar to your story before. Sure, there's a lucky bounce, but you took the initiative to act on it. So
Yeah.
students listening to this, take some initiative. You need to stand out from everybody else, right? And that's one of the amazing ways you're going to do it and get noticed by the Jennas of the world, right? So Jenna, on that, let's do strong opinions loosely held, right? This is, I love to preface this as something that you believe really strongly in, but you're open-minded enough to receive new information as it becomes available. Maybe it changes your mind. For me, I personally believe that grades and tests, they do more harm than they do good. What's yours, Jenna?
You know, I've said this before at events, and I don't know if this is controversial to some people's minds. I believe that being part of a sports team or a club is the best way to learn about teamwork and collaboration. 100%. Just that hands-on experience. I think that is just the best way that anyone can learn sports and clubs.
No, I don't think that's super controversial. I think there's so many amazing competencies and skills that come out of being in a team environment,
Totally.
right? Actually, my first real job out of school was with Rogers, and it was in more of a sales position. And I remember after meeting the HR manager for the first round, she told me like the three competencies that the person making the final decision actually wanted to look for. And one of them was like being on a team, because it was a sales environment. So it's a competitive environment. And he wanted to know that like you wanted to be the best, right? So it doesn't have to be sports, to your point. Clubs, just so many things that come from working in a team environment that are going to be successful for you when you start working in the real world, right?
Yeah, yeah, just something hands-on. I mean, I've said this statement before, and someone always says, you know, you can learn that in the classroom, and you know, you do group projects in school, and you know, and I'm like, that is great.
Yeah.
I get it, but you know, and I think because I come from a background of doing clubs, and I'm not really a sports person, you know, I just, you know, throw me something 5 feet away, I'm going to drop it. But you know, I come from clubs, and I owe so much to them.
Mm-hmm.
And from my own experience, I just hope everybody at some point or another can be part of a club or sport or something, right? Because I think also it's about the bond, you know, being with your peers and kind of having that group. It's really important.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And sure, yeah, you can learn that kind of stuff in group work in school as well. But in school, you're told what to do. In clubs, you're probably joining it because you want to. So it shows your interest and your passion, and it's a
Yeah.
completely different mindset, right? Speaking of school, Jenna, what's a life skill that you weren't taught in high school, but maybe that you wish you were?
That's a good one. I would say probably resiliency. I think in school, you know, you're not, or at least I wasn't really taught too much about how many times you're going to stumble and fall and make mistakes, and how important it is to pick yourself back up and keep going. Asking for feedback, as scary as it may sound, and you know, as you know, find the right moment. You know, maybe you're not ready for that piece of feedback right now. You know, take a day and come back to it. But it's always important to ask for feedback. But I would say resiliency. I think it also ties into self-awareness and understanding how you approach and handle difficult situations. But I wish I knew that early on. I feel like it took years and years. And I wouldn't even say right now I'm fully resilient. You know, I don't know what that even really looks like,
Yeah.
but that's something I wish that I had learned earlier on, how important it is to be able to pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, have a good attitude, and keep going.
I love that. Yeah, we talk about failure pretty often on this podcast, and I don't think there's a better year, or there's a year where it's more important to be resilient with all the speed bumps and things that are being thrown at us right now, right?
Yeah, very true.
Okay, so Jen, let's do some rapid fires for you. IQ, so intelligent quotient, or EQ, emotional quotient. You can only pick one. Which one are you picking?
Ooh, EQ for sure.
Yeah, all day. You have a billboard. Everyone's going to see it. You can write one thing on that billboard. What are you writing on it?
Smile.
Yeah, just smile. I mean, I love smiling. It was, I want to say her name's Amy Cuddy. She was a researcher. She did a really popular TED talk all about like power poses and how it can actually change your physiology. Same thing with smiling, right? Even if you're fake smiling, it can make you feel happier. So there's so many benefits from being smiling. Okay. Do you have a favorite class in high school growing up?
I did. It was actually drama. And I think it's because I love being on stage, but I think again, I loved being part of a team, being creative, even if I was working behind the scenes. Drama. And I liked music. I used to play the flute.
Cool. So you can do drama and music, but the painting part, escaped you.
No, it can't. No, just, I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the hand-eye coordination. I can't catch a ball. I can't use my hands in pain.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Cool. Jenna, what's a book that you've read in your adult life that has had such an impact on you that maybe you wish you would have read it before you were 18?
That's a good question. It's funny because I mean, I love movies, I love fiction, but as an adult, I tend to stay more on the nonfiction side. I'm actually reading a really good book right now. It's called Starts With Why. It kind of goes back to that whole, and I actually picked it up intentionally because of that last coaching session I had. But that one, it kind of goes to, being very articulate and purposeful with what you're doing. It's a great book. I mean, it's more on like the leadership business side, but a lot of the lessons can be applied to daily life.
Super transferable. All right, the Simon Sinek. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
You know what? I started it, the audiobook, got distracted, but I've watched his TED Talk. So I would
Have you?
start with that, anyone listening to it. And if it piques your interest, then pick up the book. It is one on my list I want to get
It's
back
amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it definitely is more like a business, but again, like I think the principles are very applicable. Actually, in general, I wish I started reading nonfiction books sooner. I mean, the more that I read them, I love them. But for some reason, when you're in high school, like you gravitate towards the fiction, which is great, but you see that aisle in the library. Do kids still go to the library? You see that aisle in the library of the nonfiction, and you're like, ooh, that's for old people, But I wish I got into it a lot sooner. There's great books out there.
My gut is probably that we don't know in high school how we're going to apply something that's nonfiction, right? Now we're a bit older, we can understand how to put two and two together. And start with why, even to your point earlier about the so what conversation with your colleague, that's a great place to inform that conversation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So Jenna, repeat and finish the sentence for me. If I was 18 again, I would.
If I was 18 again, I would take even more risks. Yeah. I think I put myself out there a lot, but I think there were some situations that I can actually pinpoint that out of nervousness or feeling like an imposter, I stopped myself, whether it was applying for that job or trying out for that club or that case competition, in school. I wish I did put myself out there a lot, but I wish I did that more because I wonder, who would have I met in the process? What would I have learned? Would I be still where I am today? So I would say just take more risks. Like, why not?
Can't say better than that. Okay, a hypothetical scenario to close this out, Jenna. You're the superintendent of a school board, and you're tasked with deciding one competency. So one 21st century skill that every student needs to display evidence of in their digital portfolio in order to graduate. What is that skill?
That is a hard one. I'm so tempted to cheat and string together like 3 of them in one sentence. Yeah. I would say curiosity.
Love it. Yeah.
Curiosity. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Jenna, anything that you want the young people listening to this to know about Scotiabank, intern programs, anything that you want them to know as you leave?
Yeah. I mean, obviously 10 years in the making, I think the bank is just a fantastic place to work. I heard from a leader not long ago that banking is a calling, just like going into medicine is a calling, but, banking, you're holding people's money, you're holding their livelihood, you're holding their children's education and their retirement. And there's just so much accountability and importance in that. We're helping our customers, their families, the communities in which we operate. Like I just feel like the bank is such an amazing place to work where you can have so many different types of opportunities under one roof. But when I think about young people in general, back to your point, middle school, high school kind of age group, I would say, above all, because everyone's working so hard, we're all, everybody, no matter what age you are, you're working hard, you're preparing for your future, you're trying to discover what you're passionate about. I would say above all, just be kind. That's kind of why I say on my billboard, I would say smile, be kind. We're all working really hard. We try our best, be a good person, just be kind.
Thank you, Jenna. Thanks for being part of this today. That was a lot of fun.
No, thank you for having me. This was awesome, Damien.